Hello, friends, and welcome to Virtual Strangers 51. I'm your host, Wes. With me, as always, my good friend Ruuts. Ruuts, another week in quarantine. How
Man,
you holding up, man?
yeah, I don't know, man. I seeing colors, man. It's no, actually, I've been one good thing I've been able to get out because I am essential for my job, so I get out every day. But I was thinking about that today. I was thinking, I don't know how people could do it and be stuck inside their house and not go outside and enjoy the sunshine, right? But of all weeks to be quarantined, this is the one, though, right? I mean, then I couldn't have picked a week that I wanted to play a VR game any more than I have, especially after I got in to Half-Life Alyx. I just couldn't believe how phenomenal it was.
Yeah, same here, dude. I normally keep my headsets, as you can see over there, uh, whenever I get done playing. I always hear all these horror stories about people getting the cord knotted up and all this. I always unplug mine and neatly coil up the cord and put them away over there. Uh, I unplugged my headset to put it up there. I think my headset's been plugged in the entire week. I don't think I've unplugged it once. It's just sat next to my computer so that when I get home from work, and yes, I too am an essential member of the workforce. When I get home from my job, Half-Life Alyx is ready to go. And, thankfully, because this has been a great escape this past week. I think I've spent more of my free time in this than doing anything else.
Yeah, I definitely I'm in the same boat, and I'm looking at some of the numbers on some of the people like Iron Man McCann or whatever. It's like almost 40 hours in this game already. Drillo's getting around close to 30. I think I've met 12, maybe 12 or 13. I'm on the 10th chapter, and I'm getting close. But man, it's what's funny about this game, and at least in the initial thing, and both of us, we jumped in, and I think I attribute it to the fact that we just weren't Half-Life fans growing up. The first hour, 2 hours is like, this is a good game, but I wasn't like I was watching this gameplay particular, and the dude is just raving at everything, but you can tell that he's a Half-Life fan. And as I'm watching again after I've played through this much, I'm noticing details of just watching the video. And man, I get it. If I could go into the world of a game series that I played growing up, man, I'd just be like, oh my fucking lord. But this game is just so phenomenal, and just everything, physics, graphics, lighting, it just blew me away.
Yeah, same here. And it was largely the same experience for me. At the beginning, I'd let people kind of pump me up a little bit, saying, that it's going to be so great. I spent all this time screwing around on the balcony. I thought it was awesome. And I got to the balcony and I was just kind of like, yeah, it's nice. Everything looks good. But, I wasn't blown away with it. Uh, when I got down to street level, though, uh, I think that's where this game, as far graphically, that's where it's at its strongest. Is when you get down on the street level, you're outdoors, you have the sun coming in and casting shadows through the trees and everything, and there's NPCs all over the street that are just phenomenal looking. So, like you, not so blown away at the very beginning. But as the game goes on, not only does it start to look and sound better, but then you uh, start to encounter hostiles, and that's when the game really gets fun. That's been the strong point of the game for me so far, are the action sequences.
Oh yeah, because every other game that you've never had, it's very rare. I guess Boneworks was one of the first ones for me where like you were playing against NPCs and like they were hard and you die, and like I've died a lot in this fucking game for sure. And whether it's head crabs or who knows what the hell, there's all sorts of enemies that pop up. It's just crazy. And it's one of the most challenging VR games I've played, but I've the most compelling ones. Like even the puzzles. I'm not a big puzzle person, but I've enjoyed every single type of puzzle, and they're all intuitive and they make sense. And even if you walk up to like the very first one that you walk up to, and it's so simple, and you're like, where do I go? How do I get up there? And then you're like, all of a sudden it clicks, and you're like, oh, it's so fucking stupid. That's just the way the puzzles are, right? It's like once it clicks, it's like you feel stupid because it's just so intuitive, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I wasn't that impressed. Much like with a lot of things in this game, I wasn't very impressed with the early puzzles. But as time goes on and the complexity ramps up, they're getting really fun now. Like they're actually challenging a little bit, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, even getting to there's one of the puzzles where I know Alex was complaining, and I've don't like these ones either, but like the things that they started getting like a trail on them, like as you're moving the ball around, and I kept dying. I'm like, why the fuck am I dying? And then I realized that these things are kind of like a shooting star, and the trail's coming behind. You have to watch that, and it's just, I don't know, man. It blew me away because, like I said, most times puzzles frustrate me just because I want to be playing the game. I don't want to be solving a puzzle. But this one, it just said the puzzles were actually fun, and they made sense. So I liked it.
Yeah, without going into too much detail here, because we are going to do, well, I guess I should touch on the Monday show, right? Why we didn't have a Monday show this past week. We were planning a Monday show where we were going to pretty much give the talk that we're giving right now, some impressions of Half-Life Alyx. But by the time that recording time came around, we were both pretty far along in the game, or at least we thought we were. And we decided, since we were so close to the end, that instead of doing the Monday show, we would just take another day or two, beat the game, and then we would just do a full-on review discussion. Well, here we are several days later, and still neither one of us have beaten the game. Yeah, review discussion is still coming. So we're just kind of going to give a general impressions talk here, maybe talk about a few of our experiences in the game. So without going into too much detail here about how I feel about the game, I feel like Valve really didn't do anything new with this game. Like everything they've done, we've seen before somewhere else. But I feel like they pay so much attention to the small details. That's what really sets this game apart. It's more polished than any game we've ever seen in VR. And in every specific category, they go just a little bit further than the second best went, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And one of the best things about this, I can't rave enough about it, is the audio, which I would have thought that audio's been perfected right in VR, but somehow Valve has taken it to another level to where everything just it sounds so perfect, and so the directional is so good. And like even picking up, like somebody was saying, picking up a wine bottle and shaking it, you can hear it moving around, and just little things that set everything apart. I think those are the details that just make this game next level.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was referring to. It's a great example of what I meant when I was talking about how it's the small details that really set the game apart. For example, when you jump, you use your teleportation jump. No matter what it is you land on, whenever you land, you hear your feet hit whatever surface it is. So if you're jumping on a tin roof, you can hear yourself land on that tin roof. If you're jumping on stone, you'll hear a thud. If you're jumping on some kind of a wood, you'll hear it creak a little bit. Little details like that are uncommon in video games, period, let alone a VR game. And it's not just with the audio. It's literally this attention to detail has been paid in every facet of the game. For example, I tried to break a toilet the other day, one of these old decrepit toilets that don't work anymore. But if you got really close to it, you could see it had like a thin layer of dust on it, where it's been, abandoned. And I smacked it with a telephone, I think, that I picked up, and a little poof of dust came off. There was like a dust cloud for like a half a second that came off of it. And it's just stuff like that that really builds your immersion level and really makes this game, literally next level.
Yeah, I have to agree 100%. And I don't know. One of the things that set it out for me, I mean, just because we haven't found too many stories in VR that were this complete, the acting, and then just the humor, like some of the humor parts. And it's just a subtle way of the conversation going on, just say between Alyx and Russell or whatever. And Russell brings up the fact that, her dad's leg is gone or something. And she says, yeah, I know. And it was just the way the conversation was. I don't know. It's just so good, man. It's just so funny. I can't remember exactly what they were saying, but it was definitely, it was a quirky thing. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well written script, well performed by the voice actors, on par with everything else in this game. Just, a little bit better than we've seen before. Right.
Yeah.
I think that, well, I don't want to get into the community is still kind of in the honeymoon phase with this game, and I feel like they're glossing over a few of the shortcomings. This game isn't perfect. There are shortcomings, but we're going to talk about that in the deep dive review after we finish the game. But yeah, I feel like I said, I feel like no matter which aspect you look at here, the game isn't like way ahead of the second place in each individual category, but the way that the developers have polished this thing over a 4-year period and paid attention to every little detail, it's that kind of effort that really has set them apart in this game. And I imagine, not knowing, but I imagine that probably is something that they've been known for in their other games. It's probably why they have such a following.
Yeah, it's true. And guess what? The Asgard effect is no longer an effect anymore. It's the Alyx effect, and it's completely a different game. Like it just it makes it. I mean, because it's so polished in every single way, I just think it sets the bar that much far further up. And like you said, it's not that it's so far removed, but it's just a different level. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, I would say that the Asgard's effect is a different thing than the Alyx effect. When Asgard's Wrath came out, it really moved the bar dramatically from what VR games were to what VR games are. It kind of heralded the second generation of VR software. So I feel like the gap from games before Asgard's Wrath to games after Asgard's Wrath is a huge gap. It was a big jump. I think what we're going to see with Half-Life Alyx, I think that it's the most polished game and probably the best game that we've had thus far in VR, but I don't feel like the gap between Half-Life Alyx and the games we've gotten over the last 6 months is as big as the gap from Gen 1 games to Asgard's Wrath. Now, with that said, I think what really sets Half-Life apart is the completeness of the game. Whereas you would refer to a game like Boneworks as having the best physics in VR, and you may refer to another game. I don't know. Who would you say before Alyx? What would you say was the most graphically stunning game you've seen in VR? Probably Asgard's Wrath, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we would say Asgard's Wrath maybe was the best looking VR game before. And then we'll say something like maybe Hellblade was the best sounding VR game that we've ever played before. And
Stormland felt
you have
the
all
best.
these different.
Yeah.
Right. You have all these different categories that you can judge games on. And before Half-Life, each category would have a different game that was ahead in that category. What we have here with Half-Life Alyx is one game that wins in every category. It's the best looking, not by a mile, by a little bit. It's the best sounding, not by a mile, by a little bit. It's the best physics, not by a mile, by a little bit. But the totality of every category adds up to something that we've never seen before.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And for me, I've said in the past, I don't feel compelled to finish every game. I'm the opposite. I feel like a game needs to actually be worth finishing for me. And I'm already almost finished with this game, and it just came out because I want to play it. And when I think about it, because I'm not playing it and I want to play more. It keeps coming into my mind, even now, just watching the trailer, because I've played so much of it. And I'm like, oh my God, this game, I want to play it now again. It's not as common for me with most other games. It's happened to me in flat games in the past. But I think that's the difference as well, because I didn't even feel that with Asgard's Wrath. And granted, it's because it's so long, but I got halfway through and then I didn't feel, there was a point where I just got kind of bored. I'm not bored with this game at all. I want to probably play it again. It's just that good. Now, granted, we're in the honeymoon period, so who knows? Maybe things will be different in 2 weeks or a month. But I think that's the difference. It's the solid, complete package is more palatable and makes you want to finish it. So,
well, it's not only that, but I think it's, again, I don't want to get too much into the negatives of the game, but I think that there's one aspect of this game that's a negative and a positive at the same time, and what I'm talking about is the gameplay loop in this game. You can tell that it's kind of been nerfed for new players. Like, it's not the most complex game in the world to play. It's fairly straightforward. To be honest, I mean, if you're talking about what you're doing here, we've seen it before in a game called Arizona Sunshine. This is Arizona Sunshine. You've got a few weapons. You're going through a linear path. You're shooting. You're looting, but only for a few different items. It's basically doing what Arizona Sunshine did, but like 100 times better, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, in a way, that's a negative. It's a kind of simplistic game from that perspective, but that works in its favor, because sometimes when I'm thinking about what I want to play, games like Asgard's Wrath, games like Saints and Sinners, great games, the best we have, but it sounds a little too much. I don't want to get in here and have to manage inventories and do all this stuff all the time. Sometimes I just want a game that I can just pick up and play and not have to break my brain thinking about. And I think that that's one of the reasons why this game has been so compelling, and the reason why I wanted to play it so much, because I don't get tired just thinking about playing it. But, it's one of those games that you just pick up and go, and you can play for a half an hour or you can play for 3 hours. And more times than not, you end up playing for 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, sometimes less is more, especially in a game like this. And like you said, I don't want to have too much, to manage. And they clearly did. You can only hold 2 items at once. Everything else goes over your shoulder. The best thing they could have done, and I've heard a couple of people mention it, and I said this 6 months ago. Why do we need to be able to drop our gun? Like, that's the biggest fucking nightmare in VR, is dropping your weapon, trying to scramble for it. You know, the way that they've done it, where you just push in a button and change, which, I mean, it's really brilliant. And it solved the issue of dropping your weapon. You still get to reload it. You still get to do all the stuff with it, but you're just not going to drop it. Or holster it. Like, how many problems does that solve, not having to holster your gun? For somebody coming into VR, you didn't need newbies that are already bitching about VR being a gimmick and all the shit that people say, because that's who's coming in to play Half-Life Alyx. They needed to not have the jank. They didn't need to be trying to holster shit, dropping guns and all of that. That may be great for veterans, but the way that this was done was simplicity, and it's just great.
Yeah, this is another great example of those small things that set them apart that I was talking about. How brilliant is it that they had the foresight to put the ammo containers on your back and your inventory in slots up front? Most games, it's the opposite. Most of the games, you have your inventory on your backpack and then your ammo's somewhere slotted on your body. So what ends up happening when you have a high pressure combat situation and you need to find ammo, you end up fumbling around. You're never quite sure where you need to grab and get you killed, right? In this game, they said, all right, let's think about this for a minute. Anybody who's accessing their inventory has time to stop and think about where their inventory's at. But in a combat situation, you need to know where your ammo is. It needs to be a reflex. So they put it in the most accessible point on your body, which is your shoulder. And it doesn't take long to really get that muscle memory. Drop the clip, grab a new one, put it in, and rack the chamber. You're ready to go. You do it kind of without thinking about it, right?
Yeah, it's brilliant. And because the main thing is you don't want to be fumbling around, and there's nothing else up there on your shoulder. Like, you know what I mean? Like, when you grab up there, it's just, that's the only thing that's up there. So you can't mess it up. You can, you can grab the ammo, you can throw it over your shoulder easy. It just works very well. The magnet hands work very well. Just everything comes together. And the only thing that I don't like is the fact that sometimes I'm going to teleport and I'm down off of something and I'll run. This is my own error. I'll run off and die. And it's like, oh,
I actually ran off of a spot that looks very similar to the one that we're looking at here and died just accidentally, just hit the button and boom, dead.
Yeah.
But yeah, with the inventory placement and the ammo weapons placement, we've had 100 games in VR all do it the opposite way that Valve did it. But with just this one little change, just the smallest little detail like that, just a little bit of thought and common sense made just the world of difference in how this game actually feels
and flows.
When you play it.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah,
and it's in every category that you look at. It doesn't matter what it is in this game. There's always that little something that they do different that sets it apart.
Let me ask you this, and you probably can't answer this because you don't have an index, but do you think there's much more to it, like having the index, like you can crush the can instead of pushing your button to crush it? It's great. I'm proud of all of you index owners, and you just living it up. I don't feel like you have that much more of an advantage as far as that goes. Maybe the wide field of view or whatever, but I'm enjoying it. Just the only reason I say anything is because some people legitimately freaked out and they needed to have the index to play this game. You cannot play this on the Rift S, and I just think that's so stupid, man. Like, Scion's playing it on CV1 and he's enjoying it, so I don't understand.
Right. Well, to be honest, I think if there's any difference, if there's anything that they have that I want, it's that little bit of field of view.
Yeah.
Because I honestly, playing this game, it's been really, this game's been the first time that I've ever felt really limited by my field of view. And I don't know if it's because the game looks so awesome and I want to take more in, but I've never really noticed the narrowness of my field of view before I played this game. So having a little bit more there, I would definitely enjoy. It would be a way bigger deal to me than the controllers.
Mm.
I don't think that those, being able to move these fingers really makes all that big of a difference in the game. But I get it, right? These people have all spent this exorbitant amount of money on this thing, and they have to justify it to themselves, right? They have to tell themselves that they did the right thing. So obviously, in their, looking at the world through their eyes, any advantage, no matter how small, they're going to, blow it up. It's going to seem like a bigger thing to them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, we could say the same thing on ours. We justify that we spent the right amount, less money, and we're getting as good as they, and they think, fuck, you ain't getting what we have. Right. You're not even close. But no, I'm enjoying it. I enjoyed it on the Rift S. I think it's phenomenal. So
yeah, it's like buying a PlayStation Pro instead of buying the PS4, and the shimmering's not so much in the game as it was before, and man, that extra $150 was worth it. We all do it. I'm not trying to fault the index owners at all. I'm just saying I kind of get it when they really play up. Oh, look, I can crush the, to me, I could care less about that. But the POV, that's a real difference, and I'll be lying if I said I didn't want to experience a little bit wider field of view. But I've always said that's kind of my number one thing right now with a new headset. I'd like to be able to see more of the world.
You can do it right now. They just go into Half-Life Alyx and find the tiger mask, wear it for a while, and then when you take that fucker off, because man, really talk about limited. That tiger mask, you can't see shit in that sucker, man. 2 little eye holes.
Cool. I have not found the tiger mask, and the way I'm playing through this game, I've got to imagine I just haven't gotten to that part yet.
Oh no, you'll find it. Yeah, you're finding everything, dude. You're doing the search. A thorough search. Although I'm finding myself, I probably search this game more than I have any other game. I'm looking for resin. You know what? And that pissed me off, dude. I just, as a side note, I got to a point where, Russell was saying, you might want to use your resin up because this is pretty much saying this is it. This is the last time you're going to get to, and I was one resin short from what I wanted to get. And I looked everywhere. I couldn't find it. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll just move a little bit further and maybe I'll find some. And then it dawned on me like a few minutes later that they're not going to have any more resin in here, dude. Like they just told you this is your last shot. Why would they put them in there after they put the last machine in there? So I never got my last upgrade, and I'm sad. So
well, hopefully they'll be like, your stuff will carry over to the second playthrough. Fingers crossed. I don't know. I haven't thought to ask anybody. Leave it in the comments down below. Those of you who are on your second playthrough, Drillo, Derail, you guys let us know. Did it let you keep your inventory, let you keep your weapons, or did it? Is it a new game plus, or is it just a new game when you start over?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Which even if it did, they played on normal the first time and moved up to hard. It might be one of these things where you have to beat it on hard to start over with your stuff. I don't know.
I don't know if I would. Normal seems hard enough for me, man.
Honestly, I'm on hard, and I don't find it to be all that difficult. Not yet, anyway.
I heard it's more about the ammo, and that was kind of one of the things I did notice that I think it might have even been you that was telling me. Somebody was telling me that on normal things like the ammo resets itself. Like it just knows how it'll just spawn stuff in to make you always feel like you're low, but never really get you completely low. And I'm pretty sure that's 100% correct, because I was roaming around this area and just looking, and I know I've came across clips and that just suddenly were there that I was like, oh, I could have sworn there wasn't something there. So I think it does, at least on normal, give you more ammo, and that's probably where the difficulty comes, mostly anyway.
Maybe I'm very conservative with my ammo. Generally, what I'll do is I'll comb the area, move every box, look for everything that I can find, and then I will use my pistol just so that I can have the other guns as a fallback. If things get hairy, I always have my shotgun or my submachine gun that I can switch to, and to get out of a jam. So what that basically means is that 80% of the time I'm using my pistol, and I rarely run out of ammo. Or I've ran out. The SMG kind of goes through it pretty quickly. The battery packs or whatever. But I think I may have run out of pistol ammo one time. The shotgun I barely even use.
What do you think about the thought that they didn't give us a slow-mo button? Like isn't that bullshit, dude? Like, I need a slow-mo button like Boneworks to slow down things, make it a little bit easier.
Right. Well, ask and ye shall receive. That's really kind of the beauty with Valve. If there's something that you want in the game, somebody will just come along and put it in there for you.
That's true. With all the modding, man, who knows what the hell is going to come out? That's the exciting part is, seeing what people will make in the future. I'd like to see striders in there more, like instead of just coming up on you and you actually fighting them all over, everywhere.
I look forward to having like a super challenging version of this because, it's just, maybe it gets tougher at the end, but it has not really been hard at all. The times that I've died in it, it's just been basically because I've got taken off guard by something, an ambush of multiple enemies at once. And before I can get my bearings and get settled in, they've already hit me 2 or 3 times and I'm done.
Yeah, I think there's an enemy you haven't seen yet. Maybe. I don't know. But
maybe.
I'll tell you what, it does get harder. Although,
those big guys are pretty tough. The ones with the chain gun, the big fat guy with the chain gun. Generally, though, I've been able to dispatch them pretty easily because I try to keep grenades on me, a couple of grenades in my wrists, so if I need it, I can always go to that. And normally a grenade and a couple of headshots will take care of one of those guys.
Well, let me ask you this: did you save a slot for Russell and his vodka, or did you just say "fuck you"? I don't care about your vodka.
I don't remember him saying anything about vodka.
He loves vodka.
Well, good for him. Who doesn't love vodka?
Who doesn't love vodka? Well, he hates it too. It's poison. That's a very weird thing too. But so I grabbed the bottle and I'm taking it back to him because he's my friend. So
well, maybe we'll do that. I'm thinking about, people are going back through and doing the gnome thing. Just so they can get that achievement, and maybe I'll do that because it's an achievement that you can get, and I'm definitely going to play through it again. But I was thinking, what can I really do different? So I'm thinking about maybe playing through it again and only using the pistol, seeing if I can beat the game without using either of the other 2 guns.
They may screw you on that one, Wes. They might not give you the ammo you need for it. They might want you to use something else. Or some of those guys, some of those things work very well with other guns. So that would be a challenge for sure.
Yeah, we can try it. I mean, the worst thing that could happen is we could fail and end up beating it with the other guns, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. I'm just trying to come up with creative ideas to make the game more challenging and have a good reason to play through it a second time.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll come up with something for the channel, something fun.
Maybe we already have.
Yeah, maybe.
Stay tuned. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I guess we probably should move on because if we don't, we'll just keep, drooling all over this game and singing its praises all night long. But as soon as we finish this game, most likely next week sometime, we're going to do a in-depth review discussion, and I'll go into a little bit more detail in each category of the specific small things that Valve does to put themselves ahead in each category. And all of these small differences, we will detail how they all add up to make their game, set out by a mile.
Yeah. And we may have some spoilers as well. Actually, I'm sure we will. We won't spoil it for anybody, but I can't imagine doing a full review and not going full in depth for this one.
We'll do a spoiler section at the end. We will detail what are, in my opinion, some of the shortcomings of this game, which there are a few shortcomings of this game. And I will enlighten you all as to what the Alyx Effect really is. It's not the Asgard's Effect. The Alyx Effect is going to be a different thing. But again, we'll talk about that during the review. But while we're on the Asgard's Effect, you think we're going to experience any of that here? The Asgard's Effect was after we played Asgard's Wrath. Whenever we tried to go back to playing the games that we had before, we just couldn't do it because there was so much a gap in quality that it just kind of all seemed like shit for a while. Do you think we're going to experience that now that we've got a good 6 months of Gen 2 games to fall back on? Do you think when you go back to The Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners, or Boneworks, or Asgard's Wrath, or Stormlands, do you think you're going to feel that same inability to enjoy what you're playing?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it might affect a little bit, but I mean, all those games are all amazing in their own right, and I enjoy them for different reasons. But again, some of the older games, absolutely, it just sets actual games that have things to do versus tech demos. Like even Boneworks has aspects of it that I really enjoy in different ways a little bit more than this, that you kind of wish that certain things I mean, everything is physics in Boneworks, whereas most everything in this is, so yeah.
Yeah, 100%. There are things that you can do in Boneworks that I was really wishing that I could do in this game. Like, it still bothers me that there's all this stuff that I want to climb and I can't climb it. And, climbing is like probably the biggest weak point of Boneworks. But I would give anything for that janky, shitty ass climbing in this game, right?
Yeah, I tried to climb up some poles, Wes, and they were like, "Nah, you ain't climbing this shit.
Climbing nothing. You're not climbing anything."
But the climbing you do in this game is so good. It's just they needed to be more, because in real life I can climb everything, or a lot of things anyway.
Right. You can't climb shit in this game other than ladders. And now the ladder climbing, probably the best ladder climbing we've seen in VR, right?
Yeah, no, it's perfectly easy, like super easy. It just feels good.
Yeah, that's the story with everything in this game, pretty much.
Yeah,
it just feels good.
Yep.
But more on that during the review discussion. So be on the lookout for that. I tend to be in agreement with you here. I don't think we're going to feel much Asgard's Effect going back. To be honest, I look forward to getting back in the Boneworks. I look forward to getting back in The Walking Dead. If anything else, I have more of a confidence now, having put in nearly 20 hours into this game. I'm not as intimidated by those longer games anymore because, this just goes to show if the game grabs me and I'm having fun with it, I can stick with it. I can put in the time that it takes to progress in one of those games.
It just shows you that length doesn't mean shit if it sucks. If it's not good, and I don't care how long it is, That's why if it's a good 2 hour game, I'm really looking forward to Down the Rabbit Hole. It's only a couple hours, but I know I'm going to really enjoy it for what it is. That's the content needs to be as good as the length. Otherwise I don't care. And like you said, this thing just from beginning to end is just drawing me in.
You say that length doesn't matter, but you know who says that length does matter?
My mom!
Well, assuming.
Right. All right. Yeah, and you brought up down the rabbit hole there. I guess this would be a good time to tell all of you to be sure to tune in tomorrow to the Monday show, the triumphant return of the Monday show, because the good folks over at Cortopia Studios just so happened to send Ruuts and I a copy of Down the Rabbit Hole that we're going to check out probably right after you guys watch this. And we're going to tell you guys all about it tomorrow. In addition to that, our good friends over at Twisted Pixel have sent me a copy of B Team. So we're getting ready to switch over, Ruuts, in a hard way. I'm going to veer off to the left here, put on the Oculus Quest, check out a couple of the newest releases, and both of which I've really been looking forward to. So looking forward to getting back to the Monday show, bro. It looks like we're back on our old loop again of playing new games.
Yeah, I'm kind of psyched. Actually, I've been looking forward to Down the Rabbit Hole for a while, and I'm just totally different subject as we're still on this scene. I didn't feed the bug, Wes. Like, what is wrong with me? I actually didn't. The whole beginning of the game, I didn't check as much shit out. Like, I was watching this thing and I was like, man, I didn't see that. I didn't see that chair there. So I'm gonna have to go back in and because I never even checked out any of this board or the windows, or I didn't know you could write on shit. What was I doing?
Oh yeah, I fed the bug. I wrote on shit. I actually practiced writing with the dry erase marker a few times for a future video clip. You know what I wrote? Subscribe.
Oh, hey, that works. That's good. Actually, that's pretty smart.
That's a good reminder for all of you out there. If you haven't already, click that red button down there. It's the best thing that you'll do all day. We promise.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, tune in tomorrow. We're going to talk about Down the Rabbit Hole. We're going to talk about B Team and more. An awesome, triumphant return of the Monday show tomorrow. All right. So, Half-Life Alyx, the first of the 3 big VR games that Valve has promised us. But, oh, wait a minute, Ruuts. Not so fast on that. So, back in February 2017, Gabe Newell himself revealed that the company was working on 3 full VR games, one of which would be their flagship. Well, obviously, this year we have gotten their flagship title, Half-Life Alyx. But in a recent interview with Upload VR, Valve's Greg Coomer seemed to suggest that Valve isn't working on other VR games at all, at least not right now. And here's the quote. All the resources for VR game development later in the cycle during Alyx's development, all of those resources got moved on to Alyx. So at the moment, no, there aren't 3 other titles in development. But as for what's coming, we don't really have anything new or newsworthy for you to say. Once Alyx is out the door, here's what you should expect and have happen. So what they're basically saying here is whatever they were doing at that time, those 3 years ago, at some point in time, later in Alyx's development, all of their resources went into shipping this game. And as the recent interview with Gabe has shown, in addition to the quote I just read, I think that Valve is kind of taking a wait and see approach as to what they're going to do next. I think that they'd like to continue pushing VR. They're obviously very invested in it, having, developed a headset, developed, this groundbreaking game. But, everything that they've been saying for the last week, it leads to, all right, we're going to wait and see. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I guess it makes sense, but it's not what I wanted to hear, because February 2017, and it's weird because, we're only 3 years removed from that, or, coming up. And it makes me wonder because, when this was being said, it was just that everybody knew there was 3 games. It was 3 from Valve. And then somewhere about a year ago, I remember talking with you and we were like, I wonder what's going on, because they've stopped saying 3, and so we just assumed now there's still 3, and now it's definitively not 3. And I had to go back and look at this article to make sure, okay, they did say 3, right? And I don't know. I'd like to think that there's something else in development that just got stopped and they'll go back to. But who knows what the hell's going on? I know there's a lot of flat gamers out there that are literally thinking that Half-Life 3 is coming out flat. I don't see that happening. As well as this game was made in VR, why would they ever go back to slumming it in flat gaming? To me,
well, I think you're right, and I think their wait and see approach, all of these things that they said, it was pre-launch, and that's pretty big point that we need to point out here. Is all this stuff, all these quotes, all this wait and see was before launch. Now here we are, 5 days removed from the launch of the game, and we have seen, by all metrics, this thing is shattering anything any game's ever done before. It's been a massive success. And I got to imagine if they were waiting to see, that they've seen by now, right? This is the way to go. VR is the future. Unless they're just waiting to see if it continues to grow. I mean, obviously their intention is to grow the VR platform into a mainstream thing. And I mean, only time's really going to tell with that. But as far as launches for Half-Life, I got to imagine that it couldn't have gone any better than what it did, right?
Yeah. And didn't they say it was like, what, I guess there was like 15,000 or 13,000 reviews on Steam or something, which is crazy. And I don't know, hundreds of thousands of copies sold. So yeah,
it was like half a million copies sold already.
Yeah.
And when you think about that, at $60 a pop, that's 2 to 3 times the common price for a VR game. That's a lot of money, Ruuts. That's a lot of millions of dollars.
Yeah. And it's a lot of people coming into VR, because I don't think there was 500,000 headsets out there before Alyx, or at least active. I don't know what the numbers are, but they're definitely, I'd be curious to know, if they could poll and they could accurately tell you how many people came into VR because of Alyx, what that number would be. I'd be curious.
Well, it's obviously had an effect, like a big time effect on adoption, and even got to think that it would have had an even bigger effect if it weren't for the times that we're living in, and the shortages, and just the turmoil in the world. Just the fact that they were able to do anything successful from a business standpoint in the current climate is miraculous, and it really speaks to the acumen of the people there at Valve.
Yeah, I agree, for sure.
But yeah, it's an interesting thing. Do you think it's possible that all of this naysaying and pumping of the brakes, if you will, from Valve is just part of their marketing strategy? They've been kind of masterful with the way that they handle marketing. They don't leak things unintentionally, I guess I should say. They kind of keep things under a tight wrap. They'll let out a tidbit here and there, but when it comes time to sell something to somebody, that's when you really get the full info. Okay, this is a real thing. This is a real game. I mean, we've been hearing about Half-Life VR for years now. Leaks, rumors, speculation, but we didn't really learn that it was real until just a few months ago, right? And you see how that's worked out. It's been great. So, do you think it's possible that some of that may be at play here?
Yeah.
With these other games?
Yeah, absolutely. They're, like we were just talking before we started filming it. For some reason in VR, no one wants to market, or they market very weirdly outside the norm of every other business throughout history. Valve clearly knows what they're doing marketing wise, and I wouldn't put it past them to, they're not going to show us all their cards, and they want it to be like, bam, Portal 3, or whatever, just in VR, it just comes out. And I don't care what people say. We can handle it. If you can handle Gunheart in VR, I can handle Portal. I guarantee it. So there's no reason not to do it. But at some point, I think they are. I think it is a very good chance that there's something going on. They're just not letting people know. So.
Yeah. Well, they've been pretty quick to squash the rumors since they went into press mode. Before it was just kind of crickets from them, but after they announced Alyx and they went into press mode, people were talking about, like you just mentioned, Portal in VR. There's these titles, these Valve titles that everyone automatically associates with VR because it would be so cool. Portal was one of those titles. But in an interview with IGN, Valve's Robin Walker revealed that Valve actually had experimented with a Portal VR game, but didn't get very far with it. And the quote goes, "We looked at our various IPs when we started, before we selected Half-Life, which is a standard thing that we do. It was pretty clear when we looked at Portal as a whole, if we can't do player movement, not as a result of their choice, but by launching them, momentum, standing on things, all that sort of stuff, then a whole swath of Portal's puzzles, the whole back half of Portal or more goes away, and we need some alternative thing." We saw the same thing in the interview with, dude's name escapes me now that I'm thinking about it. But when we had the Half-Life Alyx reveal, 3 of the Half-Life developers did a Q&A, and they also talked about Portal during that thing, and they were pretty quick to shut down the rumors of Portal VR. So then the next thing was Left 4 Dead VR, right? And we were even talking about it on our show. And within a week, Gabe comes out, "No, we're not doing Left 4 Dead VR." So yeah, the way that they're so eager to shut down any kind of rumor, I mean, to some people that would seem suspicious, right?
Yeah. Well, and then those are their 2 biggest IPs outside of Half-Life, right? So you'd think one of them, why not Left 4 Dead for sure? That would be an amazing game in VR. It's scary as fuck. And Scion would be noping out quick. So
yeah, he says that, man. But I mean, if he didn't get scared in Half-Life Alyx, I mean, shit, he could play half of the horror games that are out there, because this thing is way more realistic and immersive than most of the zombie games that I've played.
Yeah, true.
And there's zombies in there.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, what the hell
are... Well, they got to be Walking Dead zombies, or else they're not real zombies, I guess. I don't know.
Right. Well, I would just point out that the zombies in The Walking Dead are zombies because of the virus. I mean, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
And
that's what's going on right now. Just watch out.
Right. It's the Chinese zombies.
Yeah, well, that's probably where it started.
The Chinese zombie virus.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, man, like if it's going to come from anywhere, it probably would be there, because the bird flu, the swine flu. Like, people don't talk about that, but it seems like over the last 5 to 10 years, everything of that nature seems to come out of there. So
Too many people, Ruuts.
too many people, too many weird foods and bats and weird shit.
Yeah, I've knocked off. You know, they say you should eat healthier if you want to, you know, try to fight this thing off. So I've changed my eating habits and not eating any bat anymore.
Yeah, me neither. I don't know that I was any before, but
Yeah, I'm trying to eat healthier now.
Yeah.
You know what I have been enjoying since I changed my diet?
Mhm.
The Impossible Bat.
Oh, is there really something called the Impossible Bat?
No, this is a joke I heard the other day because you know they have the Impossible Whopper for
Oh, okay.
vegetarians
Yeah.
because they're not eating meat.
Yeah.
So I'm not eating bat anymore. Now I'm eating
The Impossible Bat.
Impossible
Yeah,
Bat.
I wonder what that would be if you had to.
Soy.
Yeah, soy.
Obviously.
Yeah,
Soy bat.
Not eating any soy bat anytime soon, Wes. Just
And,
throwing
and
that out there.
by the way, I'm just going to throw this out there. All this speculation about people getting sick from eating bats, and who comes down with a case of what is it? MS. Ozzy Osbourne, getting brain diseases.
That's
all of
true.
a sudden,
He did
so-
eat bats. He literally bit the head off of a bat back in the day, right? At least that's what they say.
Yeah, he did. Oh no, he did. He absolutely did.
Man, how gross, man. I don't think I want to
He
do
said
that.
he thought it was. He didn't think it was real.
Yeah. Huh? I guess he was in for a shock, right? Can you imagine? I've never bit into a bat, and yeah,
Roots. Let me tell you, you don't know what you're missing, buddy.
yeah. Well, I'm missing the Wuhan flu apparently. Something I don't know.
The Kung Flu.
Yeah, the Kung flu.
Anyway, you want to talk about something other than Valve?
Yeah. Let's talk about some. Well, I guess this kind of has to do with Valve a little bit, right?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Well, too bad because HP has teased a new Reverb G2 headset made in collaboration with who, Roots?
Oh, Valve. Yeah.
With Valve. HP announced this week that it is building a new VR headset called Reverb G2 in collaboration with Valve and Microsoft. Quote, through this collaboration, Valve, Microsoft, and HP are bringing a more immersive, comfortable, and compatible VR experience. Immersive, comfortable, compatible. Roots, what the hell are they building?
I don't know. Well, I was looking into this, and they're theorizing that the audio is what Valve is adding to it. Couple things that I thought was weird is, I guess because of what you can see in the picture, they don't think it's gonna be. I don't know if it's gonna be Steam V or if it's gonna be the same tracking. I don't know, man. Like, cause I was reading some stuff on the Cosmos Elite, and I didn't know, but it looks like that you have to use the Vive wands for that. Is that correct? Or that there's something different with the tracking that's not going to allow the index? And they were questioning in the article if they were going to somehow bring the index to these controllers or to this headset. That there's a lot up in the air with this thing.
Yeah, literally no information about exactly what this is going to be other than the trailer that you're watching roll on a loop here. But it's interesting. You see it say Steam VR right there. So obviously this is a Steam VR headset. But you can also see the camera slots. The two, might I add, only two camera slots on the front of this thing that would indicate this is a WMR headset, like the Reverb before it. So it's weird. If this is a Steam VR, Valve headset that's tracked externally, then what are those cameras for? Are they just pass-through cameras?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then what does Microsoft even have to do with this? Where does Microsoft come in?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions up in the air for this one, but I don't know. I was, just even looking at the specs of the original Reverb and just how clear that screen is. It's kind of exciting, because I'm not sold that my next headset's going to be a Oculus headset. I'm 95% sure it's not going to be, with just the different competitions coming out. So
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far as to say that I'm not sure that it won't be an Oculus. I really don't know what it will be, but this goes back to what we were just talking about. Like last week, I told you, up until this point, I've always had this internal conflict going on about whether or not I should buy a Valve Index. Should I spend the money to go ahead and upgrade again, even though I just upgraded less than a year ago? That's put to rest now. I don't even think about it anymore. With last week's revelation that Oculus is starting to work with developers to develop software for the new headset, the next headset, that says to me that the new hardware is right around the corner. It's going to be here before we know it. And what do we have this week? Another new headset, Ruuts. And they're saying things about this right there. No compromises. Those are strong words when it comes to VR, aren't they?
Yeah, it sounds like good tracking to me, because that's a compromise with WMR right now. It's controllers, tracking, Reverb looks amazing, one of the best headsets out there visually. Tracking's mediocre, controllers are okay. So no compromises to me says perfect tracking, amazing controllers, audio just like the Index. I don't know. We'll see. Actually, I'd rather have the FOV of the Index than anything, right?
Right, exactly. I'm going to go ahead and engage in a little bit of speculation here. Based on their description, no compromises. That says to me, by far, the most resolution that we've had in a consumer grade headset. I'm also going to say that those earphones there that appear to emulate the Valve earphones, I'm going to go ahead and say that that's probably going to be exactly what those are. And they said immersive, comfortable, compatible Ruuts. I think that that's going to mean that this is a hybrid. I think that it will work as a WMR headset. I think that it will also work as an external tracked Valve headset. So if I think it'll be sold as a WMR, it'll have WMR controllers, WMR tracking. But if you already have base stations, if you already have knuckles or wands, you can pick out this headset and it'll work with those as well.
Yeah, sounds good to me. I'm ready to get one now.
That sounds to me like no compromises. It sounds to me like it's immersive. It sounds to me like it is compatible.
Yeah. See, my only worry is, and it just goes to what I see now. Again, people are having trouble, or a lot of people are having trouble running what they have now with the graphics, and you bump those specs up and you start to add extra shit, and then people aren't able to run at things anymore. So I don't know, man. I think we need to get another bump of people upgrading their computers as well, because if we're going to make that jump to the next headset, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to need to upgrade a little bit.
Well, that's the kind of the loop, isn't it? With PC, always something to buy, always something to upgrade, and this is going to be no different. I imagine by the time we see these headsets, that the next generation of graphics cards are going to be coming out right along with it.
Yeah.
And just like last time, we had new headsets, we had new graphics cards. It's just going to happen again,
Well, I'll tell you what, my experience and my advice to people is don't skimp on the graphics card. And I will always invest in that first, because I can take my Rift S, and with a really good graphics card, I can bump that up and make it look better. And I submit that every single time I go into VR, I have a better experience than I would have if I was still playing on my 1070. So that investment has just made my VR experience better every single minute that I'm in there. It's just worth it. So
Yeah. Well, at the time that I built my computer, I literally I went through quite a bit of trouble to get pretty much the best consumer grade graphics card on the market at that time. I got the EVGA FTW3 1080 Ti card, which is one of the top benchmarking cards of that time. The thing is, the time that I built my computer was during the big crypto mining boom, and you couldn't buy any graphics cards at that time. Everything was sold out, 1050 and higher. You couldn't get it. So I mean, it literally took me months of daily watching, for things to come in stock, because people were marking them up for, buying them for $700 or $800 and marking them up to, $130, I'm sorry, $1,300, $1,400 and selling them out back then. So what I literally did was, I bought a EVGA supercharged 1080 Ti, another 1080 Ti from EVGA, but a little bit lower in basically in cooling solution, if we want to be technical about it. But literally the next week, this FTW3 came in stock, and I already had my 1080 Ti. I was like, oh no, what the hell? So I went ahead and took the leap of faith, bought a second one at retail. I paid like $800 or whatever for it. It sold out. They all were sold out within like 5 minutes of me getting it. It was an impulse thing. Had to get it before they were gone. But I turned around, and the first one that I'd bought, I paid like, I don't know, around $800, right around the same price. And I turned around and sold it for $1,000. It took me a day
damn,
to sell it.
that's pretty good, huh?
Yeah. I literally put it on Craigslist, and
but it was worth it. Like you've even said, I would even submit. I've got my 2080, man, but like I crank it, and I'm constantly looking at temperature, and it never goes up where it past where. But I'm always worried about it. Where you've got such a cool, super cooling on that. You crank the fuck out of it, and you're just not a worry. But is it not like been such? I mean, how many years has it been that you've been able to run everything at the top of the top? And just now you're starting to think, okay, maybe the next one I'll upgrade. I just think it's worth it.
Right. And that was my mentality. That was my justification. We were talking at the top of the program about how the index people have to justify their purchases, right? They spend all this money. They have to point out every pop can that they can crush so that they can justify it to themselves. That was my justification when I bought this graphics card. I was future proofing, right? Spend more now so I don't have to buy one next year. And largely that has proven to be true. I'm still happy with my graphics card. Obviously, I'd love to have something that does ray tracing, but my 1080 Ti, I can still crank the graphics up on even the newest games, and it works pretty good.
Yeah, it's definitely a good investment, and a lot of people don't take into consideration either selling your old card. I sold my 1070 for like $300 to my friend, so I ended up getting my 2080 for $550. So I mean, to me, that's way worth it.
Yeah, for sure. So this is the case in anything that you buy hardware related, whether it be PC components, whether it be headsets. The more that you spend on it now is the less that you're going to have to spend on it later. And it really, really bothers me when I'm talking to people who are trying to get into it, and they're trying to buy the minimum spec as an entry point, because they're not going to be able to play very long on that. You know, sure, you're saving a little bit of money today, but in 6 months to a year, you're not going to be able to run the games anymore. So what are you doing? You're just throwing your money away,
And
right?
you're going to be on Reddit bitching about it, and Ruuts. You're going to frustrate Ruuts, man. That's the biggest thing that frustrates me, because everybody's always telling people, "Oh yeah, that's good enough," and people are always quick to say, you know, in their own post, they'll say, "Oh, I only want to play Beat Saber. I only want to play this." I'm thinking, you don't fucking know, man. You're going to get in there and you're going to want to play Asgard's Wrath, and you're going to say, "Oh God, I can't play this game." Boneworks. You know, even Alyx is saying, you know, like his CPU is like borderline. He needs to upgrade it. You know, like there's certain games that'll come out, like Half-Life Alyx, and you'll start to notice, like my CPU, I don't even know that it's even running on my, you know, when I look at my monitor, it's barely even registering because it's such a high end CPU. It's not doing shit for Half-Life Alyx. But you go back a few generations or a couple of years, and it can make a big difference, right? So
yeah, and normally those kind of answers are just bullshit cop out answers anyway. Nobody's spending money to build a PC just to play Beat Saber on it. You know what I mean? If you're doing it just to play Beat Saber, then save yourself a little time and effort and money and just buy a Quest.
Yeah.
You can play Beat Saber on Quest.
Yeah, $400, man. Beat Saber it up all day long, man.
Yeah. The ones that they had at Walmart here are gone now, by the way.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Yeah.
The guy, remember I told you last year I talked one of my co-workers into buying a PlayStation VR.
Mm-hmm.
He got the last one. He just bought a Quest.
You told him. You sold it. You sold it.
So there you go. Like, moving on up to harder and harder drugs, Ruuts. That's how it goes.
Yeah. Next he'll be in PC and he'll be good. He'll be good to go.
Yeah. PC VR.
Yeah. Well, you know that it's funny with the Quest. Everybody says, "Oh, I'll never play past 2 hours, man." You know, for somebody that plays multiplayer with somebody with a Quest regularly, it comes up every single time we play. We have to quit because her battery goes down. You know what I mean? And that's just it is what it is. You have a 2 hour window. That's it. And that's
the odd thing about that is, I mean, you guys, you play a lot of stuff that could be played sitting down, right? You play, you know, Bridge Crew, you play big screen. She could plug it in, man.
Yeah, that's true. Well, she's thought about it, like plugging it in. She doesn't, but that's the danger of the heat and the battery exploding, or you know.
The battery's not going to explode. It could get hot though. It could generate heat while it's charging, and what that would basically do is it would cause it to throttle, like the processor and the inner, you know, workings of the hardware would begin to throttle back, and you'd start to see maybe artifacts or stuttering and things like that would start to happen if it were to overheat.
I gotcha. Yeah, no, that's the things that would worry me as well. But yeah, no, I figure 2 hours is it's just not that long. It goes by fast, you know.
Yeah, well, in the multiplayer setting, it certainly does, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so now, how about we talk about something other than Valve? How far are we in now? Right? Like an hour?
Yeah, dude. Well, I'll tell you what, you know, for a quick synopsis of Half-Life Alyx, we went pretty deep for a shallow, you know.
Well, I mean, it's a good thing. Not a lot of news this week, but we do have a few interesting things here.
Yep.
So let's talk a little PlayStation VR. You know, PSVR people out there, they want to hear about their platform too, Ruuts.
Yeah, not all this PC bullshit.
Yeah, no, all this PC crap.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot to choose from this week when it comes to PSVR, but you know they already know. They know Paper Beast came out. Pretty good reviews, by the way. I mean, Anthony played it; he really liked it.
Mm.
Down the rabbit hole, it got pushed back a few weeks, but that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is this past week, ATEC Cybernetic, a game that we've known is coming to PSVR for quite some time, finally showed up on the PlayStation Store. March 26th in the EU store, March 27th in the US store, $20 on both. This is a game we've had on PC for a while, Ruuts. I've never tried it myself, but I've talked to quite a few people who have, and it's pretty much unanimous. This is a pretty solid, very underrated shooter game, right?
Yeah, you know what's funny is I could have sworn I've played this game, and then I watched the trailer and I was like, I have not played this game. Like, how have I not played? Because it does. It looks really cool. Very cool zombie game, right? So I don't know. This would be a good game for PSVR as well.
Yeah, people pretty much unanimously describe this the same way. They all say that this game is what Doom VFR should have been. And I, for one, really enjoyed Doom VFR. So if people were saying that this is better than that, this has to be a pretty good title.
I really enjoyed Doom VFR as well. Like, especially, you know, I think the problem with Doom VFR is the beginning. It's once it gets where things are going crazy, it's crazy. You know, it's action packed. But yeah, this game in particular, like I said, I guess I've never played it. It looks good though. So.
Yeah, PD specifically recommended this to me, told me I should try it. He did a pretty good video on it way back in the day, probably a year ago, maybe less. But it looks cool. I mean, we got a little info on it here. Two gameplay modes. One of which is story. The story mode takes the player to the 23rd century where ATEC Cybernetic is manufacturing biologically enhanced empty body templates that can house a consciousness. The plan was great, but the execution not so much. Now the protagonist is stuck on a dreary asteroid with no memories and one task: to clean up the biomedical corporation's mess. Hostile but stunning environments, dark corridors, caves, an arsenal of the most advanced weapons, and an army of unleashed mutants, accompanied by a badass metal soundtrack. The perfect recipe for some grade A action. So at least the story mode, Ruuts, sounds like Doom VFR.
Yeah, it looks like it too. Yeah, it looks really good. And, you know, I think it's good that it's coming out for PlayStation VR. We've said it in the past, you know, they've had a pretty slow time, so just getting this will be good.
Yeah, it's a great time for it. Finally, I think PSVR is coming back a little bit. I mean, sure, a lot of it like this is ports, but they've been getting some good ports lately, as well as some new cross-platform titles. And then, you know, as I mentioned at the top, Paper Beast, by all accounts, an excellent exclusive that just hit PlayStation. Also a swarm mode, which offers an endless challenge for those brave enough to endure the hordes of mutants swarming the levels, wave after wave, having only one goal: devour those who dare to oppose their takeover. Two locomotion types, both smooth and teleport. Also smooth turns, snap turns. Move controllers only here, Ruuts. No gamepad play available. Developed from the ground up for VR. You know, if you want to play this, you got to have motion controllers. Looks cool, man. I see guns. I see bows and arrows. I see swords. It looks pretty complete when it comes to this type of a game.
Yeah, it looks action packed as well. It looks like everywhere I look, there's zombies attacking. So
Well, that's kind of what we always look for in these games, right? We want to we want our backs to be put up against the wall.
yeah, for sure.
Anyway, just thought I would mention that. Like I said, a lot of games making headlines for PSVR this week. I feel like ATEC Cybernetic probably deserves a little more attention than what it's getting.
Yeah, agreed.
Ruuts, when we did the Monday show episode a couple of weeks ago, when we talked about all of the racing games, it took us 6 weeks to put that episode together. Who knew that even after all that time developing that, we actually did the episode about 2 weeks too early, because right after we aired it, Radial G came through with a big update for their game. And now, the week after that, Mini Motor Racing X has also received a very significant update. What's cool about this is I didn't have a whole lot of complaints about this game, but the ones I did have been addressed now, and apparently are no longer issues. I said my big thing with it, if you'll remember, my biggest issue was the speed of the game. I felt like it could have been a little bit faster. And the very first patch note on the list here, car speed increase in all modes.
Yeah. Yeah, actually everything on this patch notes is good. There's a lot of good stuff on there. One of the things that I liked the best was the first person inside the car in VR, and then also the micro cars. Like, I felt like the cars were small before, but apparently they're going to make them to like micro machine size, tiny, right? And that, I think, will add like more of a Blaze Rush feel to it. And it's just a totally different type of racing. And then, of course, like I said before, the first person view was on top of the car. Now you're going to actually get to be in the car, which is cool.
Yeah, and apparently that makes a huge difference. Being in the first person vantage point turns it into a whole different game, which I can believe.
Yeah, especially even just looking out, like if you're looking out through the window, or you feeling like you're in it instead of on top of it. Because on top of it felt weird. It felt like you were first person, but it was a little bit different, and didn't have that same feel. So it's kind of cool.
Right. Basically, it turns it more into a Mario Kart experience rather than your Blaze Rush RC Pro-Am type of game that you get from outside, right?
Yeah, so that's one of the beauty of this game is, you've got the best of every world. You got all these cars, you got all these tracks, you got all the stuff they're adding now. There's more to this game than just about every other racing game of this type, because now you can play it as a go-kart type of game or like a RC Pro-Am. Yeah,
and we praised this game for having easy to follow upgrades, upgrade progression. They've also added the ability with this patch to respec your car upgrades. So I guess what that means is if you upgrade your car a certain way and you don't like it after you try it out, the next time through you can reverse that and put that towards something else, right?
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I wish more games would do that. Give you the options to maybe change your gun with resin. Everything goes back to Half-Life Alyx. But I just having options is good. So.
They added in reverse, so if you get stuck, you can now back up, which kind of seems like a no-brainer. There are new difficulty levels, and they've balanced out the career mode. This is cool. There is a new VR control method. It says point and tilt to steer. So you have your gamepad. Now, if you want to, you can kind of use it like a steering wheel to steer.
Kind of like the old school Wii Mario Kart, all right? You got those wheels and stuff. Yeah.
Radio G has something kind of like that too, where it's like kind of like a handlebar style of steering, so that you just kind of do this with the motion controllers and you can steer it that way.
That's kind of cool. I see a pod racer eventually where you're just kind of pulling the strings, right?
Yeah. Eventually, yeah. Wouldn't it be cool to have like a Star Wars pod racing game?
Yeah. I'd rather it be like one small part of the amazing Star Wars game, but absolutely.
Right, exactly. Like, no, I don't want to get off on the Star Wars thing, because I could literally just take 30 minutes now and lay out the whole Star Wars game and each mode that it should have, and
maybe
exactly the scene which should take place when we have the pod races, and you know.
We'll make it a Monday episode someday when they're actually bringing it out.
Maybe next Monday.
Yeah, maybe.
Actually, while we're on the topic of next Monday, next week just so happens to be week 52 of the Virtual Strangers program. Ruuts, what's that thing called where there's 52 weeks?
A year. Yeah.
A year.
I can't believe it.
1 year. Doing some cool stuff next week to celebrate the 1 year anniversary, some of which we're going to announce, others that we are not. But we can go ahead and announce that not tomorrow, but on the next week's episode of the Monday Show 32, we are going to have a special guest. Unprecedented, Ruuts. We've never had guests on before. Anthony from VR 365 and VR Game Rankings website has agreed to come on and do an episode of the Monday Show with us. And Ruuts, the coolest thing about this whole thing is Anthony has agreed to participate in Because I Said So.
Yeah, that is cool. You know, and we won't talk about which games, but I like the game he picked for us, and I like the game we picked for him, and I think it's going to be a good topic. And I think it's cool to include somebody else, you know, a fellow person doing content, as well as somebody that watches the show or listens to it, and for him to be a part of Because I Said So. I don't know. I think it's kind of exciting to me anyway.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. There has been no truer friend to the Virtual Strangers Show than Anthony. And, you know, his community is kind of like the motherland for our community. It's where we met up at. Pretty safe to say, if it weren't for Anthony and his show, we wouldn't be here doing this right now. So, yeah, we're eternally grateful to Anthony. And if we're going to have a guest on to celebrate the birthday of our show, I can think of no better guest than Anthony. And let me just say this about Because I Said So with Anthony. The thing that we chose for him is something that he has railed against multiple times on his show, something that he is not a supporter of. And he agreed to do it. So
he's going to play cool. It because we said so.
Exactly. He may not have liked the idea of doing this in the past, but he's going to because we said so.
Yeah.
So yeah, tune in Monday Show 32, 8 days from now. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So that almost wraps us up here, Ruuts. Before we go, we just had an awesome week of game releases. One might think that it's time for a slowdown, but not so fast, friends. Another great week of releases ahead. Games that we've already pretty much beaten to death in the lead up to March. But I do want to go ahead and throw out a few reminders about what's coming out this week. First of all, we have one that's pretty much at the top of my most highly anticipated list, and that game is Lies Beneath. This is a game coming to us from Drifter. And by the way, Ruuts, again, what timing? I mean, we were just talking about Drifter. I wonder if those guys are ever going to make another game. And then within like a couple of weeks, boom, we find out about Lies Beneath. And then within a month here, we're going to have the game in our hand. So how awesome is that?
Yeah, it's perfect for 2020 because nobody has patience and people freak out about everything. So bring it out last minute makes us happy. And it's like, woo. But yeah, no, I'm really psyched about this one over just about every other game. I think Half-Life Alyx was the top of my list, and this is the second just because it's so unique and creepy and just the art style, and I don't know, just it's really making an impression on me every time I look at it. So
yeah, it looks freaking awesome. You were asking last week what the story was. What's the synopsis here? In Lies Beneath, May, that's who you're playing. You're playing May. May returns home to the fictional Alaskan town of Slumber. She finds the place overrun with monsters and sets out to save her father. So that's kind of what's going on here. As we speculated last week, you're coming home, only home isn't quite home anymore.
man, I don't want to go home if this is what my house is like, man. This is pretty fucking creepy. It looks good, dude. And legit, I want to play it now. I can't. I got to wait till middle of April, dude. Like, I don't even know. Hopefully we'll be out of quarantine by then, but who knows, man.
Well, I happen to know that whole week, Weasel's going to be home. So guess what Weasel's going to be doing in short order?
Maybe playing some VR, I hope.
Actually, yeah. And this game in particular, I would think I probably will have beaten it by then, because this game, even though it's coming to Rift on April 14th, coming to Oculus Quest March 31st. So just a couple more days, and
it's not fair.
all the Quest owners out there are going to have Lies Beneath in their hands.
Yeah, it's not fair, man. I want to play it now. I don't necessarily want the Quest, but I want to play the game now. So
well, you were just talking about people who didn't have patience.
Yeah, that's me. No, I'll be okay. I think by the time it comes out, I'll forgotten. It's not even the fact that I gotta wait, Wes. It's the fact that somebody else is playing it while I'm waiting. That doesn't set well with Ruuts. I want to, like, everybody needs to be waiting with me. So I guess not.
Well, here's the thing. Every platform, whether it be Oculus or PlayStation VR, they all build their base up on exclusives. But we haven't really seen that with Quest. Everything Quest gets ends up on Rift. So, I mean, the Quest people have to have their stuff too, right?
I know. I'm glad. It is good that they get something, even if it's only a couple weeks, because there is no reason, I mean, usually if something comes out on Quest, and it isn't for Rift, it's because it doesn't need to be on Rift, and it's just a gear game that's been put up to Quest, and it's, you know what I mean? Usually, like you said, it's gonna come to Rift. It's just a matter of time, unless it's hand tracking. Then they just dick us around for that forever. Oh.
Right. Yeah, no hand tracking, guys. Not for PC, bro.
Yeah, I don't know what I haven't been able to do this, man. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Gonna do this.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I don't have the index either. If I could do that in the game, that'd be nice.
It's funny they call it the index, but this one's the index.
Yeah, that's right. It should be I can do that on the Rift, no problem. There is one game I played recently where there was some kind of configuration I did with my Rift S where it was able to do the middle fingers. I can't remember which game it was, but I felt like index player for like a day. I felt cool.
I think Boiling Steel.
Yeah, maybe it was. Okay.
Yeah, Boiling Steel lets you do all sorts of, you can do like the devil horns, and you can do peace signs, and you can do the
middle finger. Yeah. What's funny, Russ, is like I'm reluctant to do the middle finger, but it comes out of my mouth like it's nothing. Isn't that weird? And it's like, what is wrong with you? Yeah.
Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah, that thing looks creepy as hell, right?
Yeah. Good Goliath, Ruuts. We knew that this game was scheduled for March. We knew that it was running out of days in March. So they have announced that it's coming on the very last day in March. Just like Lies Beneath, this game is coming out on March 31st for PSVR, Steam, and Oculus Rift. This, of course, is a wave-based arcade action title where you play as a weaponless, gentle giant who has woken from a slumber and must defend himself using any surrounding objects. Throw, catch, and dodge any obstacles thrown at you in this storybook-style comical world featuring a full single-player campaign. This game looks surprisingly polished. It looks like something you'd see in a modern arcade, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, how gentle is that giant though, man? He's throwing people. He's throwing shit, man. He's killing people. That's not very gentle. Granted, he's in defense mode, but yeah, no, I think this is one of those ones that's going to be a sleeper game. It's going to be a good palate cleanser. And you know, the worst thing that it has going for it is it's got wave based attached to it, the actual words. But it looks like different wave based, and the art style is cool. So I don't know. I want to check it out. But hopefully the devs will throw us a copy or two, and we can talk about it. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement there. I would love to try this one out. Yeah, wave-based only sucks if it's a sucky game. But, you know, there are good wave-based games out there, and there's a shark Ruuts, and we know sharks in VR always equals awesome.
Yeah, especially when they're flying at your face and you just grab them and throw them at somebody else. That's the beauty of life, man. When you can catch something that's going to hurt you and throw it back in someone else's face, who doesn't want to do that, right?
I do, 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Even
sure.
like, never mind. No, I'm not going to do that. Anyway, Good Goliath, March 31st for all major VR platforms, excluding Oculus Quest. So, more PSVR Ruuts. We talked about it last week or the week before. Final Assault coming to PSVR. Quick thinking is essential in this World War II themed action title where you must command troops as they enter into massive battles on land, in tanks, and in the air with dogfights. Also, March 31st on PSVR.
Oh, God.
This one's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, you're breaking the bank of all the PlayStation players here. This one, actually, I don't know. Are there many RTS games for PlayStation VR? Because to me, this is one of the better ones on PC. I like it. I just like the way everything moves and how easy it is, and just how you can like almost just enjoy watching things do it. You know, not only enjoy attacking things, but watching them once you set them in motion, doing what you've told them to do. And I just think it's really cool.
Yeah, the whole draw of this thing to me, other than the multiplayer aspect of it, is I just want to look at it and see what these little things look like. You know, it's always so cool whenever you get like a tabletop mode in a game or something that allows you to shrink the worlds down, or even if you're playing a game like Moss or Ghost Giant or Down the Rabbit Hole, it's always cool to have these little miniaturized worlds right in front of your eyes. For whatever reason, it kind of makes the 3D pop out even more, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's got that sense of scale. And that, I mean, that's the biggest thing, is seeing things that small and looking at them up close, and the detail. And like you said, it's almost better than playing it. I could see myself watching a match, spectating, and enjoying it more almost than playing it, because I can really enjoy looking at things and checking out how everything looks.
You know that the early concepts for this game, it wasn't even like a World War II war theme game. It was actually originally supposed to be like a Mad Max post-apocalyptic style game where different factions were battling for resources like oil and that sort of thing.
That sounds kind of interesting, actually.
Yeah, I saw them on Twitter. They shared some early concept art, and it actually looked it looked cooler than this even.
Yeah. No, I think we're going to see all sorts of games like that that are just going to be super cool, thinking outside the box and reinventing the wheel, really, as far as these type of games go. You know, I guess what people say brass tactics is a little bit more strategic. I'm not sure, but I don't know. To me, this one was just so easy to use, and taking the plane and being able to draw a pattern of how it's going to fly and have, I mean, you could fly it in ridiculous patterns. It's going to do it. It's just really cool. So,
You know what would be really cool in a game like this, if they had like a cinematic mode where you can literally set up the board however you want it to look, and you control both sides, and you put together like this action sequence or a battle, and you have it all scripted out how it's going to go down with the planes, with the troops, with the tanks. I feel like playing with it even on that level would be a lot of fun, like kind of like a cinematic sandbox style mode.
you know what you would be hearing if that was true, if that existed, you'd be hearing, Daddy, come look at my war. I made a, you know, they're going to want to just think about that from a kid's perspective of being able to set that up and then sit back and watch it. How cool that would be, right?
It'd be literally like playing Army Men, only you don't need your imagination.
Yeah. How cool would a game like this be where it was cowboys and Indians? Like you pick one and you're battling against each other. I just think there's just so many different ideas of that nature. And I think that'd be pretty
Civilization cool. VR.
Yeah, I would love Civilization or SimCity. SimCity, where you build a city and you can shrink yourself down and roam around it, drive around or whatever. I think that'd be really cool.
Agreed.
Yeah, let's do it.
But in the meantime, Final Assault is really cool and now available for those who play on the PlayStation VR platform. So congratulations to those guys.
Yeah, you got some games and now you don't have to hate the Quest players.
Speaking of the Quest players, they're getting a pretty solid port this week as well in the form of Guns and Stories Bulletproof, coming to us from Mirrowin, the developers who brought us Boiling Steel recently. This action-packed Western-style shooter fully immerses you into a Wild West setting as you encounter and fight off a series of cartoonish enemies. Dual wield various classic and modern weapons and move quickly, avoiding incoming bullets in a series of detailed and varied locations. We got a wave shooter here, Ruuts, but by all accounts, a fairly fun one. We've got some comedy going on here, and even though you're in these Wild West environments, as you can see there, they let you bring modern weapons into the fray, which is always a good idea, right?
Yeah. Have you played this game? See, this is one of those games that I've seen the name so many times, but I've never watched gameplay before today, and I'm like, man, this actually looks pretty good. It's like something that I could see myself enjoying and trying out sometime.
Yeah, this is another one of those titles like ATEC Cybernetic for me that I've never played, but I'm very familiar with just because I've talked to so many people that have played it and I've watched gameplay on it. Yeah, this looks like a pretty awesome one. Goes on sale pretty cheap, quite a lot. You know, you can get this game sub $10 on the regular. I think it's also on Viveport. And there's a free demo for it for those of you out there who want to try it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be trying it probably when it's on sale or Viveport. I'm not big on demos, Wes. Like I just feel like, I don't know. I'm just not too big on demos for some reason.
Arcade style wave based shooting action. It's hard to screw up shooting in VR, isn't it?
Yeah, very hard. And it looks like this is pretty fast paced. So
Unreal Engine too. It's always a big plus when you get an Unreal game in VR.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. One more I just wanted to bring up, and actually, it was such a late addition that I didn't even add it to my hard copy of my notes here. I got to bring up the website version of the notes. But it was brought to our attention that we forgot last week to herald the coming of another awesome looking title that just released a couple of days ago. Ruuts, on the 26th of March, we got Hyper Wheel Overdrive by developer Neon Engine. This is a groundbreaking multiplayer VR driving action game that combines first-person arena combat with racing. You start your Hyperwheel car, pick up your laser rifle, get some rockets, and battle other drivers at high velocity. Ruuts, To the Top meets Twisted Metal, right?
Yeah, yeah, it definitely is. Looks fast paced, and I don't know how we forgot this last week, Wes. Or did we just? Yeah,
something else must have came out that distracted us just a little bit.
Well, at least we remember this week, and this is definitely a game that I'd like to try. Check out. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, you know we reference the Asgard's Effect quite often on this channel, and how a lot of the indie titles just don't quite hold up anymore, and we don't really have the desire to go back and play them. This looks like one of the few that have such a unique and interesting concept that I don't think the Asgard's Effect, if this game's done correctly and it's not broken, I think that this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's just completely different type of game, and it's so multiplayer is always good as long as it, like you said, it's a good time, fun. So
10% early adopter sale going on right now through the April the 2nd. It retails for around $19, but with the discount you can have it today for around $17.
Yeah.
So check it out.
Yep.
All right, friends, with that, I think that's going to wrap up our episode for this week. Just a few reminders. Tune into the Monday show 31 tomorrow for our thoughts on Down the Rabbit Hole, my thoughts on B Team, plus more, the Monday show 31. And be sure to tune in next week as Virtual Strangers turns 1 year old. We got Anthony coming on to do a full episode of the Monday show 32 with us. There's going to be Because I Said So and more in that episode. You're not going to want to miss it. We're going to do some giveaways, Ruuts. Want to give away some codes?
Yeah. Sounds good to me. I know we've got some for sure.
Yeah, so tune in not only to the Monday show, but tune in as well on Sunday for Virtual Strangers 52. We've got a pretty cool surprise lined up for you on Sunday as well, but we're not going to ruin that one. So just tune in for that one. Probably going to be giving out some codes on both days. Don't ask me how, don't ask me what. We're going to kind of just do it on the fly, and we'll see how it goes down. But another great couple of weeks of content planned. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe by clicking the red button below. Click that bell so that you can receive notifications whenever we're getting ready to go live with an episode. And join the conversation by joining our Discord by clicking our invitation link down in the description. With that said, friends, we would like to thank you once again for watching. And for Ruuts, I'm Wes. We will see you tomorrow, friends. Bye-bye.
Take it easy.